Event Horizon.
In Zao, I mean, we had a formula of, you know, you're a kind of a hardcore, metalcore, whatever type of band. So you have to have like a little bit more upbeat, maybe moshy parts, I guess. But we wanted to do something with that record to where it had that uneasy, real droney, dark feeling, but still have stuff catchy enough for like kids to jump around and do whatever they want to do in normal shows or whatever. So I think it was, for me, that was the hardest thing about making those songs and doing that record, was to have a good balance of that, because it's really hard to, if you think about it, mix something so repetitive and like droney with something that's a little more upbeat, and not necessarily upbeat, but like moshy, catchy, whatever.
That's my favorite record. Liberate is my favorite Zao record.
What we tried to do was necessarily let the tones of the record set the mood more than writing the songs to set the mood. Because if you listen to that record, the guitars and everything's so, like, there's just this weird, like, sounds like somebody did it in a basement of just dirtiness. And even with Dan's, like, vocals, putting a little bit of a weird distortion effect on it just made it sound real gritty and real raw and very emotional. And I think that we took that definitely from the Neurosis production, because that's kind of how, you know, Through Silver and Blood was, and Enemy of the Sun. Like, it was just real dark and weird.
I heard Zao before, heard of them, and like didn't want to listen to them because of the whole Christian thing, but I just couldn't help but love that record. I thought it was just amazing, and every song on that record just blew me away.
It's still one of my favorite records ever. It's like one of the best things I think that they have done.
Liberate was definitely a defining record for the band. I think for a lot of kids, it was the first record, even more so than Were Blood and Fire, that they really latched on, because Dan at that point was becoming more vocal from the stage about some of the songs, what they were about.
My goal was always to write lyrically something that could be taken, like you would have a pretty good idea of what it was about, but at the same time it would be vague in the sense of it wasn't necessarily focusing in on a precise point. It was, you'd get the gist of it, but at the same time, a lot of the details would be vague. That album has a lot to do with, you know, if, you know, there was a lot of like darker biblical sense in that, as far as like, you know, it talks about like, you know, our true life is after this life and death, and why not desire the end, and why not, you know, want to see the world come to an end. A lot of people are pleading for peace and hoping things get better at the same time, when, you know, the Bible of the faith they believe in teaches us that things only get worse to the point where it ends. There was a song on Liberate called Savannah that was about, you know, a pornography star that killed herself after she was in a car accident because, you know, she's in this car accident, she gets home, she looks in the mirror and her face is just smashed to pieces, and she knows that regardless of surgery and things, she's not going to be, you know, attractive in the sense anymore, and she decides that it's better to be dead than not be attractive. And you know, there's a lot of things I wanted to start making people think about. At the time, a girl I ended up dating for a long time was sexually assaulted by the drummer of a praise and worship band at a church while we were on tour. And I mean, there's a lot that goes into that experience, you know, for her and for me, in the sense that, once again, I was talking about, you know, how we were feeling a lot of angst against the church in a lot of aspects, and then something like the drummer of a praise and worship band raping my girlfriend kind of added a whole new twist on that. It got to the point, because of the label we were on, I mean, you know, at the time, you know, they still are, and were at the time probably one of the main ranking larger Christian, quote unquote, labels, you know, as far as distribution through not only like the secular market but Christian bookstores, where a lot of times, you know, these mom and pops and Christian chains across the country will more or less take in and sell anything that they put out. So they definitely, you know, understandably have to monitor what is, you know, the product and things like that.
The Christian market had some problem with like the fact that I had pinup girls on both my forearms, and I was just like, are you kidding me? Like, what, do you think some kid's gonna go in the bathroom and get excited for the first time? Like, what, you know, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't even think that record, I think from then on out, the Nail shouldn't have put Zao in Christian bookstores.
I would write songs and like kind of lie about what they were about, because I thought that if people really knew what some of these songs were about, they definitely wouldn't probably be all right with the fact that they were in Christian bookstores. And not in the sense that I don't think they were unchristian, I guess if that's a word, but in the sense that maybe this was a little too, you know, mature, or, you know, not that necessarily I'm a, you know, intellectual, mature person, but maybe this was a little too much for, like, you know, some kid to come in and purchase and think about.
Jason something was the graphic guy, and I remember I was really glammed out, like wearing like just tons of makeup, getting made fun of at hate breed shows, you know, when we play with bands like that, and just totally my own thing, you know, double stack creepers, 99, you know, skin tight everything, freaking just whatever, just not cutting edge maybe for like the hardcore scene because no one was wearing makeup, but definitely my own deal. And those guys were still kind of 50s out or whatever, and Scott was always his own person, you know, but it kind of bothered me because then the layout comes too, and they're like, they put a giant picture of my makeup eye on there, and it bothered me because I was so glammed out, and like everybody else was like, that's when I really like started to separate from Zao. That's when I started to be like, God, I know they hate me because like I want to do all this stuff, and they just want to be a sick band, and I have way too many ideas, and I'm way too depressed.
I never at any point in my life didn't not want to be in the band, and I've always taken my aspect of it very seriously, and like, you know, have always respected, you know, and treated it well. But there was just times where, you know, I realized that it's hard for me because I just started working at a good job, and, you know, I didn't, you know, excel in high school or anything, just because I didn't, you know, high school was the worst time of my life, and I hated it, and I just wanted to get through with it. I didn't care if I did well, I just wanted to get out. So I get out of high school, I'm not expecting to ever, you know, do anything work-wise that I like in my life. And I get, you know, offered this tattoo apprenticeship.
I was really disappointed by Dan, you know, was getting into tattooing. Russ was under Dan. Any decision Dan made, Russ did.
Jesse was constantly wavering. You know, one week he would be so excited about the band he couldn't contain himself. The next week, every breath out of his mouth is, I can't wait to quit this band. Like, you know, I love you guys and, you know, the fans or whatever, but I hate this band. It's a curse and stuff. And, you know, I'm like torn between, all right, I'm having someone help me with a career, or do I want to be in a band and give everything up to be in a band where every day the drummer changes his mind whether he wants to be a band or not be a band.
Me personally, I needed some time. I felt like, you know, my life, you know, I needed to do something else. I needed to make sure I was maybe 20 or 21, maybe 22, I can't exactly remember, but I needed to make sure that, you know, if this is what I'm doing, you know, is this really what I need to be doing? And Dan felt the same exact way because of, you know, his career at the time and the instability of Jesse Smith and, you know, what he wanted. And it was a battle between the two. And we were really frustrated